Nah, man, they don't have fear.
Yeah.
They are wild.
Yeah.
And I love that.
Yeah, definitely.
You know?
Definitely.
If I could channel even a skerrick of that into my work, just be more unapologetically, fearless and take big risks. And that would be, something I'd definitely pen down.
Yeah. And we're off. I feel like we've gotten going already, but that's the way. I feel sure. I was trying to actually think of a way. I'm like, is there a way I can be recording as soon as I pull up? Like, just get it going on my phone.
The rants
maybe.
Begin.
Yes. And then I'm like, otherwise it'll be like, then it's on and it's going. It's cool.
That's what happens, man. Put us in the same room. Preachers will begin. The rants.
First of all, thanks for having me, dude.
Dude. Pleasure, man. Thanks for inviting me on.
Oh, it's a long time coming. And I feel like every conversation we sort of have tends to meditate on a whole lot of different things, but all sort of centered around creating with intention and with thoughts behind things and feeling and heart and all those sorts of things.
Big time.
I feel like that's something that in the things that we've sort of made together, I tend to not have to explain a whole lot. I feel like with like albums or thumbnails of things or design rollouts or visual imagery and language, it's like I never have to like lay out any sort of thing. I feel like anything I send you, I know that like it will be translated through your lens and it will be so far past where I think is possible that I'm just like, whoa, okay.
I appreciate that, bro. I appreciate that. We ride the same wave, man.
Yeah.
I think that's it, hey?
For sure.
Energy. It's all energy, man. No, we don't need to script it. I don't need a full-blown brief from you.
Definitely.
You know, I just need to hear your stuff and we'll make some shit.
Yeah, for sure. And I feel like with the things that we've made, they've obviously tended to be designs for albums or singles or things like that, or a book, all those sorts of things. I had it and then I lost it, but that's okay. I feel like whenever I've sent you things, it's never been like, let me work on this and I'll send you back something. It's like you've always been someone that's been like, come to the studio and we'll work together.
Yeah, big time.
And we'll do, and like, not that I've worked with a whole lot of other designers in my time, but that in this day and age, it's so easy to just send and flick things back and forth over email or whatever.
Yeah.
And I feel like whenever we are together, work gets done, but it's so much more than that because it's a hang and we always talk and we find like a meeting point and we discuss things all the time. And I just feel like that is pretty rare.
Yeah, big time. I think too, man, it's all about the process, right? Mm. With you and me, it's the collaborative part of all that for me. Mm. So working in obviously advertising and marketing and design, we get briefs via fucking email, man. And then they want that kind of, here's a brain dump of some shit and make something and send us a PDF back or, you know, that's kind of I don't know, man. It seems soulless to me.
Yeah.
It's not. There's no real. I don't know. There's no love of the process, and that's all it is to me. The creativity is the process of making. It's not, and that is, you know, not just me sitting down clicking on a fucking mouse or a keyboard or something. It's like I want to sit in the room with you.
Yeah.
I want to feel your energy. I want to know, like, I want to see what excites you when you talk about your project. Like, what parts are you getting super fucking, you know, like hyped on?
Yeah.
I feed off that.
Yeah.
And also I like doing it in real time.
Yeah.
I think real time, it's the best, man. Like, we often you can sit in here for 5 hours.
Yeah.
We've done it before.
Yeah.
And we'll do it again, I'm sure. But
we
we always leave with like damn near finished product.
Absolutely.
Rather than, you know, we're not back and forthing for months on end.
Yeah.
And time poor today. So it's like, I'd rather just sit in space with you, man, and just build.
Yeah, dude.
You know?
Yeah. I think that's like a big thing. And that idea of real time kind of, it is very, for me, it feels very familiar only because like where I tend to operate within music, it's like we're making things moment by moment together. And so your process of design when we hang out and you're making something for a project that I'm working on or something, it feels like just an extension of the music because it's like it's created in the same way. And I feel like that isn't like a typical way of like, you know, working within that particular sort of realm. And like, again, like not that I have too many things to compare it to, but a lot of other art forms, it's like you sit in a place by yourself and you're communicating with people on the internet rather than like being in the room. And there's I just feel like it just doesn't feel the same. Yeah,
big time, man. I think like, you know, like you said, you bring it creates a human aspect to the design process, right? So, you know, I think a lot with design and graphic designers in particular, you spend a lot of time at the computer. And you spend a lot of time, I don't know, in your bubble, like headphones on, you know, lost in a screen, staring at pixels. And then you kind of come up for air and then you kind of have a product at the end. It's, I don't know, it doesn't seem... No, there's no interaction. There's no real energy there. It can feel quite lifeless sometimes. So I, especially in personal work and what we do with you and, you know, a lot of our friends and a lot of the boys who make music, it's I prefer to get us all in a room and feed off each other's energy. And I feel like it's almost that spontaneity and that collaboration where someone will have an idea that is not going to get translated in back and forth emails over a 3-month stint. You know, it's like they'll hear something that I didn't hear or they'll see something that I didn't see at that time. And it's nice. I like, maybe a lot of people don't like it. I'm not sure. But for me, that fuels me, man. I think it's like the fastest way to create something that the entire party is on board with and excited about because they're seeing it come to life in real time. You know?
For sure. And I feel like that's a very intentional choice that you've made as a designer, at least within that realm of making things. Is this something that has grown over time, or is this something that is there certain experiences that have led you to decide that I want to be not just a designer, but a collaborator and welcoming? Like, it's the way that you're saying that is of course fairly relaxed because you're a relaxed person, but that's like that's a fucking huge thing in terms of decision wise. You're welcoming people in, you're opening up your process and being very vulnerable within that place of you're making things on the spot, and you have to have a language, you have to have technical skills, you have to have all of those things so far in your subconscious that you're not thinking about any of that shit while you're doing it. It's just coming out, right? And like for me, when I'm in the room with you and see these things appear, it's like magic to me because I'm just like, how are you translating like this feeling, this conversation, the music, all of these things, and it's being interpreted into a visual language that I had no idea could exist until now. Were there, with the vulnerability thing and being super open and welcoming and collaborating and treating design as like a collaborative process with the client or with artists, was there anything that made you decide that, or is that just something that you've, as a person, you've had in you?
Yeah, I don't know. Good question. Oh man, I've been doing this like 15 years now. So the technical prowess and whatnot, the skills and ability and stuff, they kind of just picked that up, and that's, you'd hope after 15 years you're designing some shit that people like or you like. But yeah, I don't know, man. I think if, like, thinking back on that, it would probably be, when I grew up, always had the boys around. Right. So like very much a social, I don't know, a thing, like with skateboarding. Yeah. We were painting a lot, like, the graffiti scene was the thing. And I don't know, it was always, I don't know, it felt like it's always been a collaborative process. There's always been people in the scene for me. And then, I've been twiddling my thumbs and doing design for a hot minute, and, people would come up and then ask for some things, whether it be a mate with some band shirt or, single art to put on. I can't even remember what it was back then. It's Apple Music. Was that even around? I don't even know.
iTunes.
iTunes.
Yeah.
No, I'm pretty sure they were even printing them out and sticking them in a CD case sleeve to the point, like it was.
Love that.
Yeah, it was. I don't know. Hip hop, maybe. I think I've always been heavily involved in hip hop and that side of the culture, and that's I don't know, all of that to me just seems like such a collaborative thing. Yeah. Skateboarding especially. Yeah. Like that's you do it by yourself sometimes, but it's always about the crew. Yeah. And you always surround yourself with people and energy and like-minded cats. Yeah. Who share your energy and share your vision and want to see. Like a lot of my boys, they always want to see me. Yeah. Create and keep building and whatnot. So I don't know. I think it's because I've always been around it, man. I don't really know any other way. Yeah. I don't. Yeah. Like even in this studio, you can't really see it because we're facing one way, but like the whole plan of the studio is like it's incredibly open planned. Like I didn't want any walls in here. Like everyone sits and faces each other, and the whole thing is just. I prefer it to hum, and I like people talking, and I don't know, just maybe just the social side of me, partly extroverted. I would say probably leaning more on the extroverted side. Definitely have an introverted side. Yeah, definitely, man. I think it's a social aspect. Yeah. I love it. I love doing it with people. Yeah, I think I feed off their energy, they feed off mine. I think that's all it is.
Yeah, that's awesome. So it sounds like, because I know you're a skateboarder, and that. Particular way of it's like it's community based, but it's there's individual pursuits within that, which is really interesting, where it's like you're skating together with a crew, with friends, whoever, but you're also personally challenging yourself to like get a trick or to do this particular thing. But if you nail something or you land something, it's like, you have support around you. Yeah. And people are going to see it, and that's all that counts.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's really interesting, like where those things have kind of fed into the way that you're approaching your art and your design and things like that. I feel similar, where it's like I find it, I make a lot of music by myself, but when the things that I enjoy most is making music with people, because it's way more exciting and engaging because you have to interact and you have to have a conversation. It's very different to like individually making music. Sometimes it's the only way, but at least performing, you're normally not doing it by yourself. Yeah. And the times I've had to perform by myself, it's not as fun.
No.
It just feels weird.
Maybe that's like a right brain thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Possibly.
Like potentially a right brain of like just, don't know, tend to be more social. I don't,
Yeah.
maybe not. There's some
Yeah.
pretty antisocial artists out there. And
It's true. There's a lot of people that will that hate interacting, and I guess some people feel like it blurs like their vision or
taints
their,
it or something.
It's
Yeah,
super
perhaps.
weird. Like, I've met people like that are like, they don't really want anything to kind of do with collaboration.
Yeah.
So I feel
It's
like
foreign.
Yeah, I
That shit is
know, right?
foreign,
Yeah,
man.
it feels super weird to
Yeah.
me. And I think that's why, we get along so well and talk so much.
Yeah,
is that we feel similar.
Yeah, big time.
And rad. Maybe like I know a little bit of your story with sort of where you've got to now, but I know you started within printing, right? And then kind of moved more into design. Is that right?
Yeah.
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 Was that like a
Just
trade
kind
that
of
you
classic education fuckery.
Yeah,
Like,
right.
you know, I think it's better now. I shouldn't say that. If you want to,
Yeah.
it's a fucking rant for another day. I'll chew your ear off about the education system and design. But
So many of these podcasts have just been me and another classical musician talking about how fucked classical training is. So it's well and truly in this sort of zone.
I think so, man. You guys had classical training, right? Like,
Yeah.
we didn't even have graphic design. Didn't exist
Yeah. Right.
when I went to school.
Right.
Fuck, what do we have? We had CAD. What was it called?
Like architecture and shit
Draft,
like that, or
yeah.
like drafting and
Yeah,
shit.
whatever that was. I can't even
Yeah.
remember the fucking name of the class.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's all we had. And then we
Right.
had art class.
Okay.
So I went to, obviously, went to a decent school.
Yeah.
And then I didn't care too much for it. I loved art. That was probably it. Art and English, I guess. But, I just liked painting, liked sitting there, liked, making, I guess. And then, when it gets time to the end of the fucking year 12, they're like, what do you want to do with your life?
Yeah.
You're like, I don't fucking know.
I don't know.
I just like art.
I like these things.
Yeah. So they told me that I got to be an art teacher.
Okay.
Right, that was kind of the
Right.
only option.
Yeah.
Oh, you like art? Artists don't make money.
Yeah.
Go be an art teacher. At least you get paid.
Yeah. In
so-
the words of Jack Black, if you can't do, teach.
It's a preach. Yeah, dude. Literally, that's all I got given was that. That's it. Go to
Right.
uni, become
Yeah.
a teacher, teach art. At least you'll be surrounded and buy it and get paid for it. And I was like, okay. So I did 1 year of teaching.
Yeah.
Dropped out.
Yeah.
Was just not for me, and I don't know, it was rigid, it was archaic, it was the whole thing.
Yeah. Education degrees back then would be pretty heavy.
Yeah. And then got to the prac part. It just, I don't know, it wasn't it for me.
Yeah.
Didn't get any kind of emotional fulfillment from it. So I was like, this is not it.
Yeah.
So I kind of stopped that, dropped out, and then found a thing called graphic pre-press, which is the best way to describe it is designers would send me files
Right.
to get ready for print.
Okay. Yeah.
Age-old conversation. The designers don't really understand print.
Yeah.
I was the guy who'd fix a lot of their shit,
Right.
and then get it ready for print.
Yeah.
Which was kind of cool. It was, I don't know, it was something really hands-on about it. Like I was in like the proofing room and just like cutting up pieces of paper, like mocking
Yeah.
up books,
Yeah.
making sure everything flowed right, the designs flowed right. I wasn't technically designing then, but it was almost like it was teaching me the technical know-how of how to design
Yeah.
in a weird way
Yeah.
by fixing problems.
For sure.
It was
yeah.
kind of teaching you the right way, I guess, to do things. To get ready for print, I mean, let's be honest, man, print's, it's not thriving,
Yeah.
I wouldn't say. Maybe
Yeah.
it'll come back.
Yeah.
I hope it comes back. Man.
Yeah.
Definitely not dead, but it's not obviously
Yeah.
thriving. But
Yeah.
yeah, you can see, man, I'm surrounded by
Yeah,
books.
for sure, dude. You're
it's
a big
fucking
book
500
lover.
books here, but a little mini library. But that's just purely an appreciation thing,
Yeah.
right? But coming from that space and knowing how that books are made, I think that inspired me. But then, starting to look at books and then getting into the design of books and then, started designing, got some bootleg fucking Adobe software.
Yeah. Yeah.
Started doing that, playing with design. Mind you, like my first, if we want to go back, my first kind of dabble in design was photoshopping doctor's certificates
For school.
at high school. I got real good at that.
That's awesome.
So I could shop up a couple and take a day off
Awesome.
and just go hand that in the next day. That was wholesome. But yeah, that was probably my first kind of dabble in the software side of it. But I went, the print game, did a 4-year apprenticeship.
Okay. Yeah.
So, but kind of spent, time in the bindery, binding books, learned how that process did. I was just I was a sponge, man. I just wanted to learn how it was done. I wanted to know everything. So did that for a stint, finished that apprenticeship, and then moved into the first studio that I worked at, studio agency. Yeah. Started there as a junior designer and then worked my way up to, junior. It's cooked, man. It's like junior, midweight, senior. Yeah. And then art director and then now creative director. Yeah. So, yeah, it's been a fucking journey. Yeah, dude. Laying that all out. Yeah. It's been a thing. Just rage quit my apprenticeship at one point and moved to London with my now wife. And then had a blowout over there and came back, reassessed, finished it off. Yeah. It's been a journey. It's been a journey, man, but I love it. I still love it. I think that's why I still do it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you're someone that if you didn't love it, you'd be finding something else that would sustain you and fulfill you. I feel like
big time.
Yeah.
I can't do something that I don't enjoy.
Yeah.
That's my wife, Tom. Tom. Yeah. She rages because I can't sit still. Like if I'm not enjoying a show, I'm out of the room. I struggle going to the cinemas. Yeah. Because I just want to stand up and walk around, want to pause it, and just like go out and then stretch my leg. I don't know. Yeah. Yeah. If I'm not fully invested in something, I really don't pay it much mind. Yeah. 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 No, that's awesome, dude. It's I knew like most of that journey, but it's really I didn't realize it was sort of like that graphic design wasn't really a thing when you were in school, and now it's become like, even within that 15-year period that you've been doing this, like how much things have changed and crazy, evolved, man. And it's like what a crazy time to, because I guess pre that or even pre-internet, it was like very much print is king, and that was the only medium to get things out other than like television and things like that, I suppose. Whereas now it's like completely flipped almost, where it's like everything is online. My daughter, she's 5. She starts prep next year, man. Like fucking primary school are teaching computer arts now. Yeah. Like how nuts is that? We had year 12, man. Like high school didn't have anything. It didn't exist. There was nothing like there. Mind you, I don't think you need to study it at school. Like I've hired some cats and I've had, we've run some job interviews for positions here in the studio. It's like some of these kids are self-taught and they are fucking good. Dude, Like scary good. Yeah. There is nothing you can't learn on YouTube. That's a miraculous miracle fucking thing. Yeah, but dude. Yeah. It's wild, man, these kids. And they're just driven, and it's pretty incredible. It's pretty impressive. Yeah. Where we had none of that. It was now I'm that kid. I'm that 33-year-old man who's sitting on YouTube trying to teach himself a new skill, trying to upskill. Also how to change like a fucking washer in a tap. Oh yeah, that's the shittest, dude. I hate doing that. Yeah, for sure, man. That's wild. And I guess like, all of that is changing now, where it's like the idea of institution and study and all of these things are starting to, I'm like teaching at a uni and I'm seeing a lot of things, a lot of holes starting to appear in terms of like, is this still relevant? Especially in the arts, because it's like, if you want to learn how to make music, design, make films, whatever, there's full university courses basically that you can access for free. Yeah. And learn at the equivalent of a 4-year bachelor in like 3 months if you wanted to. Yeah. Or Skillshare or whatever. Like there's so many things like that now. And I feel like it's becoming
the institution, the only thing that it can lean on is like you have like a piece of paper at the end that says you know these things. But yeah, I've met students that are studying, and then other people that haven't studied, and it's there's huge knowledge gaps in what it's providing and all that sort of thing, and it's starting to bring into question, like, is it relevant anymore to go?
Yeah, man.
The only I've been thinking about this a fair bit, and I'm like, the only things I can see that are for those things is like there's a person in real life teaching. And I know for me, like the tutorials that I run, I feel like I'm getting to students and connecting with them because we're in the same room.
Yep.
And we get a lot done that way, compared to like a screen. But for some people, pausing and doing stuff and then coming back to it, or pacing in your own way, and they can watch it at 3 a.m. in the morning if they want to, rather than like showing up to uni or whatever. Yeah, I don't know. It's
I agree,
really
man.
interesting.
I'm someone who has to be in a space. I think that's also why I fucking hated uni.
Right.
Because a lot of it was, you had to rock up for these little classes and then go back and then study and do your homework. Whereas like the apprenticeship, it was every day it's
like hands-on,
learning how to do it, fucking up, making mistakes, fixing them.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was, maybe it's changing too with the younger generation coming up, and the way that they consume information is, I think, completely different to how you and I do.
Absolutely.
They might be much happier to sit on the other side of a screen, and learn in their own time, and that's going to probably be pretty interesting too. I think
for sure.
Definitely archaic though, man. The education system, like I said, I'm not going to get too deep on it.
Yeah,
But
fucking.
It's I don't know. It fails creatives. I think
it does.
Which is a fucking laugh now, man, because like creatives are the new athletes. Yeah. Like these kids who have no professional training are earning more than lawyers and fucking doctors and shit. They're just making TikTok vids in the fucking house. Like, it's a joke.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Not that I condone TikTok or any fucking stretch of that, but like, it is a foreign concept, and I think, I don't know, it's definitely going to change the education space as we know it, I think. Yeah. And hopefully the way they teach it. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like it's probably going to become more self-directed, and teachers will become more of like more so providing guidance and trying to find the best path for each student, rather than this broad spectrum of like, here's all the knowledge, regurgitate it, and if you can't do that, then you're fucked. Yeah. Because I know I was the same. I only really was into music and art and shit like that, a bit of design stuff at school, and like that I succeeded in those things only because I was into them, and the rest it was fucked because I wasn't interested by any of that shit. Dude. But that idea of like, if you can't regurgitate knowledge in a particular fashion, then you won't succeed within that particular place. Yeah. I think it's definitely changing. Like I've noticed in schools, like it's becoming a lot more based around students' needs and their way of learning and things like that.
Yeah, I think too, they've got 4 years at unis and shit. You got 4 years to fill for like advertising, creative, what do they fucking call it? Communication design. Yeah. I don't even know the course, mate. Yeah. They got 4 years to fill, right? So they're going to flood you with a bunch of shit that you will never use again. Yeah. These little independent mobs popping up, like Billy Blue. Yeah. They were just, small independent design colleges. Yeah. I think they got like 3 months. We had a couple people come through the studio work here who studied at these joints. Yeah. And they were just explaining to me the process of the course and whatnot. I think there was like a 3 month, oh God, I'm probably going to get it wrong, but 3 month intensive where it was every day, 3 months. Yeah. And it was kind of what you were talking about, where it's like you just fucking come in, start using the tools, and they just have the teacher.
Yeah.
There's no lectures. There's not presenting a fucking keynote. It's just like you start designing. I'm gonna tell you if you're doing it right or wrong, or how to improve this, and it's just this constant collaborative process again, right? Like,
dude. Yeah,
you know, no one wants to sit in front of a lecture.
No,
especially design's boring. Dry as shit.
Yeah,
you know, no one wants to learn about fucking kerning and tracking of typefaces. Like, that's fucking, no one cares.
Yeah.
Like, but we just want to know how to make shit that we think looks good.
For sure.
So,
yeah. No, I agree, and it's very similar to music where, these students had to do this like recording intensive for a day, and I was sort of like making sure shit didn't catch on fire, but I felt like within that day they basically had to record like an artist coming in and run the session, and I just was kind of guiding them and trying to stay as hands off as possible.
Beautiful.
Until something bad happened, which it didn't, because they're all G's. But like, I felt like they learnt so much within that 6-hour session that was covering probably like, I don't know, 5 or 6 weeks worth of content in that one session, and it was because they were fucking doing it.
Yeah,
they were doing it. Like they weren't like sitting in front of a screen or a teacher or something, kind of just regurgitating knowledge. It was like they had to. Where do I plug this in? Like, you have to figure it out. Like, find out.
Exactly, man.
You know?
And I think, you know, touching back on what we're speaking about, like at the beginning of this thing, like you're in a fucking room with people making shit. Yeah. Energy's there. Vibes are flowing. It's fucking, like you said, 6 hours over 6 months. Like you crammed it. Yeah. This is why I like working with people. Yeah. You know, and creating with people, because the outcome, I don't know, one, it's faster, but it feels 10 times more real.
Absolutely.
And 10 times more authentic than forcing something. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I feel that for sure. To take a different direction.
Pivot.
Why not? You know, one thing I really wanted to chat to you about was Fred again's social media and building of community and things like that. Because I know that's something we've connected on not that long ago. And it brings up, I guess, like extending on sort of these things in terms of like real life practical things and applications of these ideas, I suppose. And it doesn't have to be Fred again, but people that are like musicians or designers or filmmakers or whatever. But let's use Fred again as an example. This idea of like building a community organically on social media in a very, for me, like I recently just deleted everything again for like the 5th time.
Perfect detox.
Because I'm just dying. But how are you finding like for his community, for example? Like I've only recently kind of I knew who he was for a while, but I listened to a little bit of stuff like a couple of years ago, and I just wasn't in the right mind, like place to kind of absorb his music. And then recently, probably within the last year, I've been listening to everything that he's releasing at the moment and digging it. And I've gone deep on a lot of interviews and the things he does within programs and his relationship with Brian Eno and all that sort of stuff. I guess, like, do you have some thoughts on what he's doing, how he's like growing, how he's like to me, like from the outside, it just seems super real and organic and so led by just his infectious like desire to make music.
Yeah.
You know?
Big time, man. I think Fred again is a fucking, obviously not to take away from his ability, he's a very talented producer and beat maker, and also dude does vocals as well. Yeah. Like he does a bang up job. Super talented cat. But what he's done in the space that he's done it is it's fucking outrageous. Like it is a masterclass in brand building.
Yeah.
and being, you know, it's probably that's my bread and butter is this idea, you know, the building of brands.
Yeah.
Is what I fucking love the most.
Yeah.
Because it is such a community-driven thing.
Absolutely.
You can't have a brand without a community backing it. But Fred, man, it's ludicrous. So Fred, don't know how deep you've gotten in the catalogue, but he obviously did the LP with Hetty.
Yeah.
So Fred's been around hip-hop.
Yeah.
Pretty much in Stay Dot.
Yeah.
The grime scene, I guess, in the UK.
For sure.
But there is something about that I think it's important to touch on. So Fred has this incredible DIY aesthetic to his shit.
Absolutely.
And you can track that back to like 80s hip hop.
Yeah.
With slinging discs on the side of the street.
Yeah.
You know, hand designing your album art.
Yeah.
It's got like there's this drive that these hip hop artists had back then, and he's encompassing it to an extent here. Absolutely. Where it's DIY. It's I can do it all. I mean, I don't know how much he does now because he's, you know, sheer size.
Yeah.
But it still feels like he's behind the screen, and I still think like a lot of it is.
Yeah,
like I definitely do, because it seems too authentic and too. Fuck, I hate that word, but it seems too real to not be him.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's got this. He's definitely tapped into this idea of this DIY hip hop thing, and you can, you know, obviously did the project with Hetty, but there was this miraculous timing with Fred, I think, because obviously with the first of the the first
Actual
of the three
Life.
Actual Life one, yep, that was like back in COVID,
it was, yeah.
So. There was something that he did there where he recorded his friends, you know, in the audio bites. And man, that alone just had people resonating on such, like, let's be honest, man, the world was at an all-time low.
Oh, dude, for sure.
Fucking emotional mind states and just general mental health and well-being was probably fucking all-time low.
Yeah.
But there was something so empowering about that record and the samples that he cut into it from friends but also other musicians, like that was, and you know, it was the FaceTime calls, man.
Dude,
like it was the FaceTime conversations that he was having with people, and he cut these things in, and this is why I'd start to say that it was perfect timing. Right, people were, I think, emotionally ready for that and almost needed that at that current point in time. And the way that it made people feel upon listening to it, like if you take out all the bites, I don't think it would have been anywhere near as captivating and relatable as Actual Life was. Upon first listen, man, like it was a masterpiece. But I think definitely music is incredibly circumstantial, right?
Absolutely.
So, you know, I'm the elder emo, man. Like for me, you know, you can see the collection. It's all old school, and it played such an important, integral part of my self-development in that point, right? So, being circumstantial like that, I think, coming out of COVID and coming out of the lockdowns and people needed to hear that shit, and it was just so well done. He just from that alone won the hearts. And, you know, the souls of many, many devout listeners who still would be listening so strong today.
Absolutely.
And he continued to roll this out. And he continues to do so. It's like nothing dramatically shifted in terms of his, across the three projects. Nothing changes in terms of sound.
No, not at all. Same sound world.
Same, you know, it's still clipping those fucking amazing samples in. Everything is feel good. He rides this wave of uplifting, you know. It's really, I don't know, something incredibly positive. I think the first one maybe was a bit gut-wrenching.
For sure.
Probably wasn't intended to be, because a lot of the content was still very positive. But I think it was gut-wrenching because, I don't know, being just the experience of listening to that post-COVID. I think it was, you know, probably it resonated a lot more with people. But he hasn't changed anything over that time. But what he's done is like he's continued to include his community in his social content.
Yeah.
So, you know, he stitches a lot of fans' videos into from shows, and he'll reshare them, or he'll ask them to start filming some random shit, and then all of a sudden that's on the projector at one of his live shows.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
So
I've noticed he's
all
been
of a
doing that.
sudden, man, people are feeling like they are a part of this dude's evolution.
Yeah,
right?
man.
And they're a part of the show.
Yeah.
They're a part of his music.
Yeah.
It is this sense of belonging, which is
Yeah.
what creates community, right?
Yeah.
Like, I belong to this.
Yes.
And I can't think of someone who's done it as good as Fred. Like it doesn't seem false or fake or forced. It's just, he's just genuinely hyped to include everyone in everything.
Yes.
Constantly feels like a collaborative process. I mean, beat making is quite,
for sure,
autonomous.
Yeah.
And then apart from when you get a feature in, I guess, but he's creating this community by involving every single person as a collaborator, every fan as a collaborator.
Yeah.
Even when was it? Is it the Australian tour? Was it with the fucking whale?
Yeah.
The blue whale emoji.
Yeah.
That sent people into fucking fits.
I know.
Right? Like people into fits. And all of a sudden they were doing fucking, what are they? Scavenger hunts around the fucking cities trying to find these blue whales. And like, I still don't, to this day, no idea what the fuck happened when you found one.
Yeah, for sure.
Who cares?
Yeah.
Like cats are involved.
Yeah, exactly.
And kind of similar to the old CJ Hendry, with her and her copyright infringement. The red boxes dumped around the city and people would flee out to find and shit. He's involving, again, building community around that. That's massive.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's his superpower, man. It's definitely his ability to involve his fans and make them feel like they're contributing to his greater offering, right? Or his process, or still to this day. And like, even, I swear at least one person proposes to their partner at a Fred show.
Yeah, dude.
And then the next day it's online. It's fucking, he's shared it, right? And he's just genuinely stoked to do that. The way that he breaks down his posts as well, like, 10 slides, 10 descriptive things. He has this real behind the curtain look at his entire process. It's not polished. He's not just trying to, display a certain character or whatever it is. He's not building something that's not true. You genuinely get to see the dude. And even his cover art, right? Like, it's just him with his fucking headphones.
It's like an iPhone
selfie.
Yeah, selfie photo.
Whack the coloured filter over the top,
dude.
and slap
That's
it.
it.
That's that shit. That's that hip hop. I think
dude.
played heavily into this. For him. And his love thereof, because there's so many things that I can just liken it back to. It's that DIY budget. Lord knows he's probably not a DIY budget now, but he's he still operates and moves with that mentality where it's like, I do it all myself.
Yeah, for sure.
Even to the bit where there was a UK tour or something. He literally threw out one of the stories, was just like, look, we need a place to practice this set. There's someone got an apartment.
True.
And then I think, man, like 2 hours later, they were in some random cat's apartment, just jamming. And I'm pretty sure it was when he did the, he was with Fortet, Kieran and Skrillex, Honey.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was when he was moving with them. But they were, all three of these cats were in some random dude in Sweden's apartment.
That's loose.
And they were just practicing a set before their show.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's that shit, right? Like,
man. Yeah.
I don't know. It's a masterclass, man. He built this incredible community, and they're devout now.
Absolutely. Yeah, they'll follow him anywhere.
Yeah.
And I feel like for him, like if anyone tried to do that by following a specific layout of that happening, like, okay, we're gonna like get you to like sample all these fucking clips from like Instagram, TikTok fans, blah blah blah. We'll chuck them in your music, and then we'll that'll like steamroll this, and then let's put their fucking shit up on their projections of these videos on the show, blah blah. It's like, if anyone tried to execute that as like a pre-laid out plan of like, this is how you will grow. It's like, it would never fucking work.
Nah.
And I feel like that's something that feels, that's why it feels so real, because it is. It's not like, I feel like he kind of stumbled across, because like before he, like in between that first EP and then Actual Life, he was making music for a lot of other people as a producer.
Yeah.
And he wasn't doing any of his soul, like as in not like in terms of visibility, like it wasn't there. Clearly he was like, working on shit, but just not releasing it. And then I feel like that concept he stumbled across, and took a punt, at least in the first one. And I think that's why maybe it feels slightly different to the other two, but also the timing for sure. And as that's progressed, it's just like he's finding this language, and it's not necessarily evolving too much, but I feel like it's expanded that community like hugely.
Tenfold, yeah.
But not with the intention to grow it. It's just like, I like the way that this works musically.
Yeah.
I like manipulating people's like voice messages into a melody, because it's fun to do. And I think it's like by accident allowed a lot of people to connect with what's going on, because the samples aren't like, oh, I chopped it from this record and I had to spend all this money to clear this sample and blah, blah, blah. It's like the old school hip hop approach, like you're saying, where it's like, fuck clearing it. I'm just going to use it because this is what the track needs.
Yeah.
And he's done that, but in a really smart way, probably by accident, of like, I don't need copyright on people's phone messages.
No,
like,
dude.
There's not even any laws really. Like,
No, what, you got to green light it with your friend.
yeah,
who sent you the
exactly. It's
message.
like, can I use this? And
Yeah.
it's like, I think that's because it's so relatable, because everyone has a fucking phone. Everyone knows what a voice message sounds like played through an iPhone speaker.
Yep.
It's compressed and it sounds like, you're speaking through your nose, but everyone knows what that sounds like.
Yeah.
And I feel like,
That's that relatability, man.
oh, dude, it's just like, every time I see these things popping up with him, it's like, with the idea, the call out thing of like, can you film yourself like riding a bike, and then it pans up to the sky or some shit. And like, it's so, it's real. It's not like, oh, this worked last time and we'll try it again. It's like, no, actually, he's built his entire show around these things. Like, the screen is like fucking whatever.
Portrait?
Yeah, like portrait mode, and that's everything is built around that.
Yeah, it was a masterclass, man.
Yeah.
And his, I think it just comes back to the fact that he released a vulnerable record in a vulnerable time.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Which I think cemented himself as a vulnerable cat. Relatability, right?
For sure. Yeah.
Then the way in which he showcases himself is incredibly relatable. Like, you feel like he's not on a pedestal.
No, it feels like
how
you're
fucking famous this dude
with
gets. He's playing Ali Pali and shit. Yeah, exactly right. And
Yeah.
if you saw him in the street and you're like, yo, Fred.
Yeah.
The dude would slap it up with you, no doubt.
for sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
You know,
definitely.
and like, he plays fucking chess in cafes before shows. I'm pretty sure he's playing a game of chess with a fan behind the stage at Coachella.
Yeah.
Right? This is that thing, man. He doesn't seem like he's... Maybe that's what it is too. It doesn't seem like he's put on a pedestal that you could never speak to this dude, or some of the bigger artists and some of the incredibly famous ones. You'd never cross paths with them.
Close.
This dude probably just, you feel like you're down at the pub.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you know?
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I think that's it, man. I think it's his relatability that has just made him. It's that relatability DIY.
Yeah.
And also in just a generation right now where everything can be done on your iPhone.
Yeah.
You can make music on that thing. Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. You can
nuts.
film, cut samples, like flip it.
Yeah.
To the point where it's like you can design shit now on your phone.
Yeah.
It's just this generational thing where I think nothing that Fred does feels like you can't do it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Like, it's...
I agree. Yeah.
Like, Lord fucking knows I can't do it.
And musically, like, I've gone pretty deep into that side and listened to a lot of podcasts that he's done where he kind of like peels back the layers a lot in terms of his production. And he makes everything in Logic, but all the plugins he's using are all stock. It's like he's not using any like crazy expensive software to make everything. It's like, I'm using the preset of this stock plugin in Logic. Yeah. And that's what I use for
but it's even fucking like, cool, man, that he's showing you that too.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, that's transparency.
Like and I feel like that's the age now as well, where it's like there's no secret.
No gatekeeping.
There's no gatekeeping anymore. And I saw this video the other day about this Phoebe Bridgers record.
Oh, Queen.
And they were talking about like how they made this particular sound. It's this show called Dead Wax on YouTube. It's hosted by Jack Conte, who's like the head of Patreon, CEO of Patreon.
Oh yeah, true.
And Ryan Lerman, who's like an insane jazz guitar guy. But they were talking to the producer, and he was like probably 60 or something. Yeah. And he was like, they're like, I can't remember what song it was, but they're like, what did you use on the guitars and the vocals? It sounds like it's all running through this one plugin. It sounds super muffled and lo-fi, but we can't figure out what it is. Like, what is it? And he's like, oh, no secret. And then like all the comments on the video, like, what the fuck? Like everyone, and someone made a video where they figured out what it was. Yeah. And they used a clip from that video of the interview being like, we're going to figure out. And he just went deep on Reddit and found out what it was. But it's like the internet will...
Kernels.
Yeah. They'll find out what the fuck is.
Yeah, exactly. I'm pretty sure it's been busted.
Yeah.
Surely.
Yeah.
I don't know, like, man. There's no place for gatekeeping anymore, dude.
No. And coming back to Fred, it's like... I feel like he's someone that like he's taking everyone along the ride with him. And you can feel he's genuinely stoked about everything that's happening. It's 100%. Not put on. It's just like, this is exciting. And let's, we're all together in this. Yeah. And like my success is your success.
Yeah, for sure. And then every, future projects, whatever he releases, everyone's going to feel like they're a part. Like, I don't know. They've been a part of that ride. They're still riding with him.
Yeah.
Even to the point where I don't even know whether it was Actual Life 2 or 3. I don't fucking know. But he did the... He strapped a fucking bicycle with like speakers.
Right.
And then threw a shout out.
Yeah.
And then was basically like, hey, I want to be riding around London playing my album strapped to the back of this bicycle. If you own a bicycle, come with. Dude, they literally shut down London. There was madness. There was thousands of cunts on bikes.
Wow.
Like ludicrous.
Yeah.
And
that's insane.
I don't know, man. Like, this is that thing. And I'm pretty sure he stitched together something to show on another video. But I don't know. That's it, right? It's like the dude who's just riding down the street on his bike. That's Fred.
Exactly.
And he's not glorified. It's just this dude who gives away his secrets.
Yeah.
Anyone could technically go now and make music in the same way, but it's not going to hit the same way.
It's because he's the one that did it.
Yeah. And he's got I don't know, Fred's got, I still think he's got this ear, man, for making music that is like somehow incredibly uplifting, but super emotional. Yeah. And super vulnerable.
Yeah.
And takes you to a different place, unlike a lot of electronic music out there, which can often feel computer generated or
I feel
cold.
like the thing that he does really well is like it's very uplifting chord sequences, but it's like very simple. Yeah. But
it's warm.
But
like everything sounds
it feels
warm.
very familiar and like and I think that juxtaposed with all of the voice notes that he's using, I feel like just opens up a doorway into just feeling very
Dude, he's
comfortable.
got the fucking sauce, man. Fred, he's figured it out.
It's wild.
The recipe.
Yeah, he's cracked the code for sure.
I follow a lot of musicians, but they're, like I said, I've never seen a come up at that pace.
It's rapid.
Rapid. 3 years, man. It was 3 years? Like 3 years.
Yeah.
Superstardom.
Yeah. It's crazy. There was a point where the tracks that he was working on and produced made up it was like 60% of the top 10 in the UK at one point. So 6 out of the 10 tracks that were in the top 10 he'd produced.
Fucking
at
dude,
one point.
He's a Pharrell.
I'm like, what the fuck?
He's a fucking closet Pharrell.
For sure, yeah, the UK
That's
Pharrell.
madness.
Yeah.
The UK Pharrell. Dude, that's madness. That is a fact.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it when I had that fact.
That is wild.
But yeah, he's done that in such an amazing way, and I feel like it's like it's a really great model to look at for anyone who's like, I know for me, like I sort of am going through this big thing of, I need a big gap away from social media at the moment, just because it's
toxic,
creating this perception thing that is tricking me into thinking that I'm doing a lot and I'm not. And you know, I actually want to do the work. I don't want to like talk about it, or post about it. And I've been tricking myself, so I'm getting out of that. But like looking at that as a model of like this organic sharing of your enthusiasm and of your creative journey in a way that you're, in terms of sharing, rather than trying to elevate or do those sorts of things.
Yeah, big time. I think too with that, there's like working with brands nowadays, you know, and they approach us and they ask, what can they be doing on socials, I guess, or what should we be putting up? For me, man, it's all about documenting, right? It's not...
Yeah.
It's documenting the process. And I think, it's time consuming, but again, it's that documenting is actually what people want to see, what they resonate with, what pulls back the curtains and doesn't feel so polished.
Yeah.
It's, I don't know, it's that relatable content, right? It's that, but documenting is king. It doesn't cease the creative process. It doesn't stop or slow you down.
Yeah.
You can fucking set up say you're a painter or a drawer or something. You just set up a fucking time lapse or a GoPro or some shit and just document it, man. Like, CJ Henry, that's another amazing, you know, Brizzy girl, shout out, but she's massive, and a lot of her content was her showing exactly how she draws these pictures. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Nothing's hidden. Yeah. She's super relatable too, man.
Yeah,
you follow her? She's fucking just a Diet Coke obsession.
Yeah, for sure, dude. Yeah.
Just crazy antics, man. Yeah. But again, she's amazing. She's a devout community as well. And you saw that with the copyright infringement, people chasing the red boxes. And all she does is document. Yeah. Shows her studio space. Yeah. Like things she loves. Like even documented her whole house renovation. Yeah. Yeah. You know, that's, I don't know, just gave people a peek behind someone who may have been put on a pedestal, glorified, untouchable to an extent. Yeah. But yeah.
For sure. Someone who's like, I know we're talking a bit about musicians. We could look at anyone, I suppose, but someone that I'm just seeing this the Igor record cover, and someone who's like sort of doing a very similar thing in terms of building this giant brand around his music and his fashion and his taste and visual image and things like that, but in a very different way. Who I've been following a fair bit is Tyler, the creator, and I guess like I feel like he's very on par with like Pharrell in terms of this idea of blending a lot of different mediums in a way that feels very organic to their expression. Yeah. You know, with Tyler, with his like golf brand and Golf Lafleur and his music festival and all those sorts of things alongside his music and all that sort of thing. Like that's in a different way in terms of like it feels a lot less relatable on a particular level, because it's like the things he's making are fucking crazy. Like
outlandish.
like some of the things he's making are insane in terms of just like how do you even, like, you need so much money to make these things, which he's made through making insane, beautiful, heartfelt, aggressive music, and kind of building his following and fortune that way, but then pushing out into those other mediums, for sure. Like it sort of makes me think of like obviously your trade and your expression is through design, but you're someone that is a avid music supporter, listener, thinker, all that sort of stuff. Was music something that, because I know you made a lot of music when you were younger, and how does music, I just feel like it's running very parallel in your life in terms of like your record collection, and there's, whenever I see you, there's always music playing, and we always talk about music. What are sort of like these parallels that are running like with your design, your idea behind design, and music being it seems like a very, very important and integral part of your life.
Yeah, it is, man, big time. And if you've been to my house many times, the music's always playing, bro. And there's fucking Sonos speakers in every room, and my daughters even have them in their room, and they're 2 and 5. But like, I don't know, man. It's just soundtracking for me, right? I've thought about this as to why it's important, but I think I like to soundtrack my life. I guess that's kind of the best way to put it. Yeah. And the way that your memory works too, memory recollection, if there's sounds involved, you can really pull things, easier to recall particular memories from a certain time if you were listening to a sound, right? Absolutely. That's that crazy fucking theory of like muffled music at a house party, right? So if you throw a dampener or some shit on like The Killer's Mr. Brightside, right? You got catapulted back to a fucking house party, probably doing a beer bong upstairs. I don't know, but like it's somehow you're there, right? And again, touching on like the fucking emo phase, but it's not really a phase because I'm still here. But I don't know, man. It's that kind of circumstantial thing where I don't know if it's circumstantial or just my life was like broken up into. I can almost break it up into what music I was listening to at that time. Absolutely. Yeah. So like hardcore punk and the emo phase, like that was fucking 13 to. Well, now, but like 13 to like 18, 20, probably quite heavily. Hip hop has always played such a hefty role. Like everything's just sound. I like sound. I like music. I appreciate it. I think it's the same. I appreciate things. I appreciate things that are done well. I think, taste is subjective, but even the binding of a book, going back to the apprenticeship and stuff, man, like, I love the way fucking books are bound, or the way they feel or smell. Like I love the smell of a new book. Like, I love hearing records for the first time that excite me that I haven't heard. Mac, for example, fuck, that dude went too soon. I don't even think we scratched the surface for that dude's capabilities.
His Mac's gone.
Super influential. Pharrell, obviously, and Tyler, man. Tyler, I feel like could be Pharrell's weird son that kind of just come up. For sure. Those two dudes, man, like in the truest sense of the term, they're creative directors, right? Absolutely. They're not just a musician. Like they're not just a fashion designer. Like fuck, Pharrell now, spearheading Louis Vuitton. That's like insane. That's madness. Virgil obviously paved the way. Like Virgil, shout out, rest in peace. Amazing dudes, huge influence for me. But he paved the way for Pharrell to step into such a role. Absolutely. But Pharrell has been doing this forever, man. Tyler is just
dude, for sure.
Crazy dude as well. Even from his Odd Future days. Like, absolutely. Touching back on that DIY, those dudes were insane. But now he's this more polished, reserved. He found his footing and what he can do. I don't know, man. I think in terms of like rolling with design, it's just an appreciation thing. Right. I think it's... I listen to certain music when I design certain things. Right. We spoke about doing like some sort of live montage thing. You play some shit and I'll design to it and see what the fuck comes out. Like, that'd be cool. For sure. But I don't know, man. It's an appreciation thing. I just appreciate the craft. I love things made well. Music, books, art, design, painting, whatever it is. I don't fucking really care.
Yeah.
The art of brewing a good coffee.
Yeah.
Like
for
it's
sure.
just for me, it's the process again.
Yeah.
It's flogging that term, but it's the process of making it. You hear a record and you can kind of start to piece it together, and you know it was involved. And yeah,
for sure. And kind of building on that, I suppose, like it's funny. I had the idea of taste in my mind a little while ago. I was like, I need to circle back to that.
Yeah.
Where it's like, of course, subjective, but I feel like you're someone that has very good taste in a lot of things, and very similar to things that I really dig as well. Again, why we get along so well, I suppose.
Absolutely, bro.
But what do you like? You were sort of talking about the idea of things being put together in a particular way, the process, and those sorts of things. Like, are there? You mentioned Pharrell and Tyler. Are there people that have been, and Virgil as well, like you're saying, Mac, these people that have sort of, to me, like Tyler and Pharrell especially, Tyler in the way of like, just because I've been following him a little bit more probably than Pharrell in the recent history. He's someone who strikes me as he's kind of just exploring his taste in everything. Like it's not sure, like bro. He this like the fashion thing that he's doing feels like just an extension and an expression. It's not like a thing of like, oh, I'm going to start a fashion brand now because I can. Like, yes, that's part of it, but I feel like he's someone that's always, any interview you see, like him talk about like getting particular shirts when he had enough money to buy something, or like these shoes, or like BMX bikes, or
his wristwatch collection.
The wristwatch stuff and all that sort of thing. Like, I feel like a lot of the people that are in that zone, in terms of people that transcend the art form in which they began in, tend to have amazing taste in everything. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like for Tyler, it's like the way his interior design tastes, and like the cars he's driving and all this shit, like it all tends to like mesh into this thing of like, of course that's what he's driving, or that's what he's wearing or whatever. And I feel like for a while the idea of crossing over art forms, like maybe in the last like 5 to 10 years, was sort of like a bit taboo or something, in the sense of like, if you want to be a really good musician, just play music and don't do anything else. And all this sort of shit. Whereas I feel like now it's becoming a thing of like, if you want to explore this area of your creativity, go do that. And if you want to go make music, go do that. If you want to design, go do that. And it's becoming a lot more acceptable to explore multiple different mediums if you want to. Yeah,
I think it's... when you really think about it, it's so fucking counterintuitive, man, to only stick to one path.
Yeah,
right?
It doesn't make sense in my brain.
You're not going to learn anything.
No.
Like even with my guys here at the studio, like I want them doing video. Like, yes, they came to me as graphic designers, and yes, I hired them as that. But man, I want them doing video, right? Learn about motion. Learn about how shit moves.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Animation design. Like illustration, it doesn't matter. I want them to sink their teeth into as much as possible and start to learn. Now these kids are weapons, man. And I think it's so important not to pigeonhole yourself. Of like, no one really likes a fucking design nerd who only knows about graphic design. The thing about Pharrell and Tyler especially, and Virgil too, is that yes, they have incredible taste, and they're taste makers, I would say. But there was this willingness to try new shit.
Absolutely.
And unapologetically be themselves. You know what I mean? And like the beautiful thing, I think Pharrell's probably a little bit more reserved, well-spoken, like holds his, you know, he's didn't used to be probably as much. Like back in the NERD days,
Yeah.
was a bit of a
Yeah.
fucking
Yeah.
loose cannon. But today, a bit more reserved. Tyler has the same mentality he had when he was fucking Odd Future with
Yeah.
Yonkers, right? And
Yeah.
Goblin,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
He does not give a fuck.
No.
And it comes across and it's amazing.
Yeah.
And I think people need to harness this more.
Yeah.
And he is 100% not scared to go and try some shit and fail.
For sure.
Right. And I
Yeah.
think, again, it's this idea of failure is, it inhibits a lot of creatives. This perfectionism. Why would I do something if I'm not going to do it incredibly well? That's not the fucking point.
Yeah.
Just make some shit.
Yeah.
Keep making things. Dabble in spaces that you would have never thought you'd dip your toe in.
Yeah.
And that's why I feel like their taste carries across so many different avenues.
Yeah.
Is because they're allowing themselves to do so, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's the cool thing about Tyler. All his shit somehow, if you see like the Golf LaFleur, you see the collection. I wouldn't wear a piece of that, but
Yeah.
that's Tyler.
Yeah, for sure.
It's this cool thing, man. And like, I don't know. I just think he's doing like films. There is not, and it's purely because he's, I think, a really inquisitive dude. I've watched tons of interviews on that cat, and he has this thirst for trying new shit.
Absolutely.
And just, I don't know, throwing shit at a wall, see if it sticks.
Yeah.
If it doesn't, fucking do something else.
Yeah, for sure.
I think definitely he has, like talking about capital and money and stuff, like, he does have that now, but he didn't.
No. And he was still doing those things when he didn't.
Yeah.
With Odd Future and things like that.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And I think it's I don't know, these dudes who just go out there and females who just go out there and just unapologetically create stuff that they love, right?
Yeah.
And probably more importantly, put it out into the world.
Yeah.
We touched on this before, but there was people who make and hold. It's not doing anything for them.
Yeah.
Right?
You won't learn anything.
Yeah. You won't learn anything. And I don't know, man. It's important to dip your toe into a million different things because it's going to, you might have your number one craft. Like I would say that my main craft is still design. But my design skills have gotten so much better from playing with video, from playing, dabbling in photography.
Yeah.
Learning how music's made. I don't know, just the broader umbrella of the creative process. That's kind of probably why I like it. It's not a square, it's not a box, it's a circle for me. It's like you can just go anywhere. It's all, if you have that, I don't know, that train of the way of thinking, right? It's a way of thinking. It's a way of being, I would say.
Yeah.
Rick Rubin's book, The Creative Act, right?
Absolutely.
It's a way of being more so than anything else, and just allowing yourself to be creative.
For sure. Yeah. And I think it's like, it's definitely getting back there in terms of like, I'm not sure whether I agree with the term Renaissance men, those sorts of things where it's like this idea that you like Leonardo da Vinci in terms of like he was an engineer and a painter and a musician and a writer and blah, blah, blah. But it's like, and so, so many, you see a lot of like people writing about this sort of shit where it's like Tyler is a modern day Renaissance man, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I think he's just an artist. and he's just doing a bunch of different shit. And I feel like it wasn't acceptable to do that for a while. And now it is again. And it's like, I don't think it's like a Renaissance thing. I think it's just like loads of people did it then because they were interested in a lot of different shit. Leonardo was interested in designing planes or contraptions and shit like that. And it's like, I like building shit, but I wouldn't classify myself as like a carpenter. But it's like learning things within that realm definitely helped me piece music together in a different way.
It's just tickling your creative bone, right?
For
it's
sure.
all these little things like, I don't fucking, tinkering with wood, steel, metal, making in the broader sense of anything. Just making stuff. Like, I think it's that creative brain and allowing yourself to be creative without fear of like, it's cool, man, in today's generation with this. Like you are so much, you are allowed to create so much now, and no one's really going to give a fuck. I think that
We'll let the
Just let the coffee machine
Coffee
just chill
machine.
out for a sec. Noisy. It's fucking loud. Where was I going with that?
you're allowed to make more stuff these days, or make across a lot of different places.
Oh yeah, without fear of like fucking judgment. I think the young generation, man, they're super good at it.
Yeah,
right? Like
there's no fear there.
No, fuck no, and it's cool though, right? And I think they're the ones who are they'll change everything. They'll change the game because they're. You could even look at it from the perspective of how long some of these kids hold down jobs, right?
Yeah.
They will go into a job and they will work 6 months there, and then if they don't fuck with it, they're out.
Yeah.
Right? And fuck, look at the boomers. Like they worked the same job till they died.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's this vast thing where it's like, and even probably in our generation, my generation, you do.
It was like a 10-year cycle.
10 year,
Yeah.
5, 10 year.
Yeah.
You don't want to. It was always negatively viewed if you jumped and changed professions. Now these kids, man, they are just like, nah, don't fuck with it, not doing it.
Yeah.
Bouncing.
Yeah.
What's next?
Yeah.
Like,
for sure.
That's really cool because they're not going to wake up at 60. Yeah. Have a fucking midlife crisis, buy a motorcycle.
Yeah, exactly.
Just, you know what I mean? They're going to have a pretty sound understanding of self, which I think is so imperative.
Absolutely.
Which again, you can't discover without trying.
For sure.
A whole bunch of new shit.
Yeah.
Making a whole bunch of shit. I don't know. It's cool. And I think the stigma and the stereotypes behind that are starting to vanish. Which I think, is necessary. I don't know about Leonardo da Vinci, man. I don't know whether he just didn't give a fuck.
Yeah.
Or whether back then they didn't care either.
Yeah.
They just let him be him.
Yeah.
I don't know. But
yeah. No, I agree. It's like, it's changing a lot for the better a lot of the time.
Yeah, big time.
I think like it'll be very interesting to kind of see how that translates into the mediums we still have, and whether those sort of start to blur together.
Yeah.
Or whether it's a thing of they start to separate in terms of it's becomes more about the individual artist and their world that they're building, and that covers multiple mediums, or whether it's like I'm thinking like in terms of like you might not be saying like blah 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 as a musician, in 30 years it might be like this person makes these things.
That's Tyler, like, right?
Yeah,
and I think
sure.
that's like brand building.
Yeah.
It's like, fuck, you look at like Nike, whatever.
Yeah.
They have a whole range of product.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Spanning completely different activities and sports and whatever it is.
Yeah.
They're not niched down to one thing.
Yeah.
Like, they start to become brands, and I think Tyler is definitely encroaching on a brand status more so than a musician or a rapper. He hates being called a rapper.
He does, hey.
Yeah. He gets wilds about it, but I don't know.
Yeah. I feel like it's definitely moving in that direction of like, it's like an artist kind of thing, and not in the visual sense, just in like the holistic sense of like working across different things.
I think that too, man, like the idea of creatives having a title is not ideal.
No.
So
it's incredibly confusing.
Yeah. And I mean, like, I would rather just, all the guys who work with me, like, I would rather everyone just be a creative. I don't, even if they're a fucking web developer.
Yeah.
Even if they're a fucking graphic designer, social media expert. I don't know.
Yeah.
My mind and the way that I view them all, they're all just creatives.
Yeah.
And that's where I prefer to keep it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It creates this, like, linear hierarchy where it's like, there's no one above or below, or we are all just on the same playing field, same collaborative space. Like we are all building, things for the better. Like, I don't know, man, harmoniously. I think, the titles, I think they fuck with me a bit.
Yeah, for sure. I find that even just with, like bands or my own name or project names or things like that, I find it really tricky to figure out where I sit with it all. Like I'm in this like identity crisis at the moment of
You mean like a band name?
Yeah, well,
Like,
not even band name. Like for me at the moment, it's like the things I'm making will probably be performed with a band, but I'm doing a lot of it myself at home. But to me, that's not really like, I don't really want that to be under my own name. I don't know why. I think it just doesn't feel like, I feel like it's a project,
yeah.
and it's a world that
its own.
exists within, and I think has the potential to be developed as a brand's not the right word, but as in like I guess it is, in terms of like there's a visual language that's being developed as well as the musical side of things. Whereas my own name tends to be like if I'm mixing shit or if I'm like
The formal.
Yeah, like the formal title kind of
okay.
thing. And I always feel a little bit weird, like if I was to make this music and perform this music under my own name, it just feels like I can't go wild in that world development kind of thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. Like that's, so with Mac,
Yeah,
he had Delusional Thomas.
he did.
He had Larry Fishman.
Yeah.
Right? He had all these monikers.
Yeah.
And I can't remember who interviewed him. Oh, fuck, it's beyond me now. It's gone. But the reason he did that was to actually delve into these projects.
Well, yeah, right.
Right?
Yeah.
So, like, Delusional Thomas, that shit is so dark.
Yeah.
And it was only mixtape based. Like,
Yeah, it
the
was.
glory days of datpiff.com. You know?
Yeah.
And same with, like, Larry Lovestein.
Yeah.
His jazz moniker, which is, like, I feel like finally started to get more of a spotlight in, like, the later projects, like Swimming.
Yeah.
And so it was like, you started to... Divine Feminine, for me, is probably one of my favorite Mac, and that's because... you heard more of Larry Lovestein, right?
For sure.
But that's, in the interview, he talks about, he created those and he told no one that he was a part of them because of the beauty of like SoundCloud, right?
For sure.
He just fucking throw things up under that moniker. No one knew it was him. But it was allowed him to go completely, left wing, like just create some shit that does not fall under Mac Miller.
Yeah.
You know, so I hear you, but it's, I think it's definitely fine to do so.
For sure. Yeah. It's definitely become a thing of, it's allowed me to shed a lot of things that have been inhibiting music making.
Big time.
So even in that sense, it's like worth doing in terms of I can try a lot of stuff that I would never try normally in terms of like if I was going to perform under my own name. So
I think it's important, man.
It's been helpful.
It's a really cool tool, right? And the internet allows you to do so quite,
easily,
and secretly too.
Yeah,
no one's going to know it's you.
Yeah,
if you don't want them to.
Yeah.
But yeah, and it's I don't know if Justin Vernon. I think he started. You listen to Justin Vernon's earlier stuff, and then now you look at Bon Iver. It's they don't sound the same.
No.
Obviously his vocals are there, but it's completely two different directions.
Yeah.
I feel like he does the same with Volcano Choir.
Yeah.
I feel like they all kind of just fall.
Yeah.
He just falls into these projects where he tries different shit.
Yeah, for
and just plays Kevin
and
Parker.
Diarm and Edison. Yeah. All those things.
Same with Kevin Parker and Tame.
For sure. Yeah.
Like, that dude's a genuine genius.
Definitely.
Yeah. And I think, what he creates under Tame Impala is Tame Impala.
Yeah.
It's meant to be that.
Yeah.
And that's what he'll continue to do so there.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think it's a helpful tool if it's needed. For sure.
For sure.
Yeah. Speaking on Bon Iver, another shared love that we have.
The king. The goat.
Where to start, I suppose.
How long you got?
Yeah. How long have we been going?
I don't even know.
A while. 80 minutes.
All right.
Cool.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, feel free to, whenever you want to eject, we can eject.
Let's keep running, bro.
Cool. Camera looks on still, so that's good.
Hasn't overheated.
No, looking good.
Bonus.
Maybe talking a little bit about something I'm really interested in with Justin is his major shift between the self-titled album and 22 Million. And musically, of course, they're vastly different worlds. But I feel like I also don't want to we just had this massive rant about not being classified as a particular person within a medium. But I guess I'd love to hear your opinion on the design elements with Timothy Carlson, the dude that was
genius,
making the entire visual language of 22, and I think a bit of Icon I. But mainly 22, only because I've probably delved a little bit more into that, and it's there's a lot more symbolism going on and that sort of shit. I'd love to hear perhaps in a design lens, but also as an appreciator of Bon Iver, what did you find, again, this correlation between music and design seems very strong within that particular statement of that album. Yeah. Do you have some opinions on this?
Yeah, I mean, Timothy Carlson's a fucking super talented dude. And the iconography that he did for 22 was ridiculous. And I've delved into his journey with Justin, and it was, I can't remember how long it was, but it was several weeks that he spent
at the studio,
listening to that.
Yeah.
And it's super cool to me, man, that's kind of, I guess, again, that collaborative, that process, right? Being in a room and then somehow formulating these logos for each individual track.
Yeah.
And like you said, building this visual language around that record and that album, it's insane.
It's something that I've never seen before in that particular way.
It probably hasn't. I mean, maybe someone has, but I haven't seen it.
I feel to that depth.
Sense.
Yeah. To that depth, for sure.
Yeah. There's, I don't know, especially with, the Bon, his earlier stuff, Justin's earlier shit, it always felt much more cinematic, right?
Yeah.
And I think maybe it stemmed, I don't know, he has this kind of mythical, it's almost folklore around Justin Vernon, right?
It's become this huge in the way that he made For Emma.
Yeah, literally, right? It's the man in the cabin, mental breakdown.
Yeah.
Wrote this
failing liver,
and wrote this fucking masterpiece.
Yeah.
There's nothing else you can call it.
With one microphone.
One mic.
Yeah.
And just created one of my favorite albums of all time.
For sure.
And easily one of my favorite Justin records. But it always felt very cinematic.
Definitely.
But he's definitely started tapping into this design-focused artwork. Yeah. Especially, I would probably say from 22.
Yeah.
And then Icon I. I think that's... I think he'll carry Timothy Carlson along with him.
For sure.
For the ride.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. I know that the graphic elements in that, I always feel like there was an appreciation there. Even some of the I wish I had the booklet actually. I'd probably do the 22 one. The one for each, creating an icon for each track was absolutely ridiculous. And that's so much work, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I think the Icon Ride, the album art that was was it a mountain? Is it some sort of
it's
landscape crossed with block color?
Yeah, and it was shot at the studio that they recorded it in on it was like the border of Texas and Mexico. Or something.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of the studio, but yeah, I think it was like around where the studio was.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I definitely think there's an appreciation there from Justin to want to do that. I know that he reached out to Timothy Carlson.
Yeah.
And approached him and basically said, "Look, I love your shit.
Yeah.
Let's make some stuff."
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know, maybe I do know that, obviously Justin Vernon's worked with an array of cats, but I do know that he also loves hip hop, right?
Yeah.
With that, I couldn't help but think that with the iconography with 22,
for sure,
there was definitely what felt like to me underlying street art.
Yeah, definitely.
And the way that it
tags or something.
It felt more like a piece, like a graffiti, an identifiable something.
Yeah.
Where all of these tracks can now be identified by a mark.
Yeah.
I don't know. There was something there that made me feel like maybe that's what he was appreciating. But this could even just be, like you said, like Justin Vernon just appreciating fucking graphic design.
Yeah.
Do you know?
Yeah.
I feel like back in the day, a lot of album covers were photographs. So with hip hop especially, it started off with just photographs of, you know, the rapper sitting on a stoop or whatever it is. Starts there. Then you got the metal covers, the classic metal covers, which are fucking usually painted or hand illustrated.
Yeah.
You know, often demonic, dark, picturesque landscapes.
Yeah.
But then I don't know when it changed, but now you're starting to see so many of these graphic, I don't know, artwork that's revolved around typography, you know?
Yeah.
Like the first one that jumps to my head recently was like Jungle, right? They just have their mark, change the background color, slap the logo on, right?
Yeah.
The 1975, they have a very talented designer.
Yeah.
I can't remember the dude's name off the top of my head.
Yeah.
Man, but he's done some incredible rollouts for them.
Yeah.
Visually, their sleeves, their booklets, super cool. I don't know, maybe it's a trend, or maybe this is just what we're leaning into now.
Yeah.
This graphic element, you know, to the point where sometimes it's just tiny text on a black background.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's kind of played into it a little bit. But I don't know. I definitely think even with Justin Vernon and having his million different side projects, sometimes I just feel the dude knows what he fucking likes. Yeah. And he just pulled Timothy Carlson and was like, I'm pretty sure the message was and it was a DM, right?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was just yo, love your shit.
Yeah.
We should work on something. Yeah. And then that was their first project.
Yeah.
I mean,
which is insane.
It's fucking insane. The energy and the waves that they both must have been riding to come out with that. Yeah. Wild. But obviously that's that shit. He resonated with his work straight off the bat. Yeah. Right? Knew that there was something there. Yeah. And then they made something cool. So look, I don't know, man. I don't know what or why the logos worked or why, I don't know, they resonated. Well, I know why they resonated with me from a visual standpoint, but
what were those things that like you were saying, it resonates with you? What was sort of poking out to you that?
I don't know, man. Anything creating a language out of visual, right? That's a big thing for me. Even with, if I buy a record and it has no fucking booklet, to be perfectly honest, and I've paid $50 or whatever, I'm dirty about it. Do you know what I mean? For me, it's the process of sitting down, putting that record on, dropping the needle, opening that book, and then that's again part of that experience. I don't know. I like that analog, that tangible experience that comes along with listening, and reading, touching, But with the 22 a million especially, he did the video rollout, didn't he?
He did.
That was that one.
Yeah.
That was fucking amazing.
That was insane.
I don't even know how many tracks. What's 13?
Yeah.
13, 40 tracks. I can't remember, but each one had their, what do they call it? Visualizer?
Yeah.
It was a visualizer.
Yeah.
And then they were so incredibly detailed.
Yeah.
It was
mind blowing.
It was mind-blowing, man.
Yeah.
I don't know, and that was something we hadn't seen. One, I just think when I first heard 22, I was shook.
Yeah, same.
Right,
Yeah.
I was not ready for
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even the opening of like 33 God, like not ready for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And not what we'd heard from Justin Vernon before, but
Yeah.
to have the visual component, that was also something that was just like, because you look at the Halcyon videos
Yeah.
that he did,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
it's that cinematic, right?
For sure.
And it's that,
yeah, it's like
visual
in the
story.
woods.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. It's again the
This
fucking
is where it comes
folklore of the Bon,
For sure.
You know,
Yeah.
the mythical being that
Yeah.
he is, man.
Yeah.
But I don't know, there was something super cool about. It was almost jarring,
Yeah.
to be honest.
It was. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. In a good way.
in a great way.
Yeah. Yeah.
But kind of also allowed him to keep stepping. I don't know. Maybe it was also something that he wanted to do to help step into like the new phase of Bon Iver.
Yeah.
Nothing ever sounds the same.
No.
Like they are pushing boundaries sonically all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I have no idea where we're going to end up after this one.
Yeah.
But
yeah. Like to me, what struck me so much about that was the depth of the visual language. Like it wasn't like an album cover and some lyrics or something. It was like this. It was almost like alien in a lot of ways, in the sense of that it was like this entire world had been built around this music visually.
yeah,
That was so perfect in terms of like when I saw the graphics for each song, I was like, oh yeah, that's what that song is.
Yeah.
Like, and it didn't seem like there was any other option in terms of like, I can't think of anything else that song would look like. you
Yeah.
know? And even to the point of like in the booklet, like with the lyrics laid out the way that they are, the spacing, the like different fonts, like some shit's printed right in the spine, like like just the detail is and you hear the music and it's like it's so detailed and deep, and I feel like Eric was someone that, because he was so involved in terms of just being at the studio for so long while those things were being made, it's so integrated into the things that he was making.
Yeah, and maybe it was, super experimental record.
Yeah.
Probably more so than, self-titled.
Yeah.
Maybe Eric was just like, you know what? Fuck.
Yeah.
Let's just flip this.
Yeah.
Let's go, you know, experimental with the visual language, the typesetting, the like layout and design of the book, like everything. Yeah. And then let's carry the rollout. Let's carry that on into the videos.
The videos are crazy. Like the screen capture thing, it was like, it felt super like super internet culture, sample based culture thing, like influenced, but like not even like not memey, but like it was so relatable in a lot of ways, because it's like I've seen a Windows screen before a lot of the time, or I've seen like the Notepad app or whatever, and shit like that, where it's just like the speed at which things were copied and pasted and all that shit. Like it just was so striking and so different to like anything that I'd ever seen
and
before.
Maybe that's where it worked, right? Maybe with Eric, Timothy Carlson, he came in and was just kind of like, let's push the boundaries. You're pushing your boundaries sonically. Yeah. I'm going to push it visually.
Yeah.
And maybe that's somehow why it worked. It's interesting that you see, like, you listen to one of the tracks and then you look at the logo or the icon or the mark for like the 33 God one, for example. Yeah. You look at that and you're like, there's no way that couldn't not be that. Yeah. Like that's super cool. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And I don't know how they achieved that. Like for me, I don't know whether it's like if you maybe the videos, some of them seemed brainwashy.
Yeah.
You know,
super
like
weird.
almost
Yeah,
trance-like
yeah.
in
Yeah,
terms of their
yeah.
things. And maybe it was
Yeah.
just like they burnt those things in my retina. Like I would
Yeah,
almost say
yeah.
that the tracks, I associate the tracks now with their icons
Yeah.
more than their names.
Dude, yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
For sure.
Like,
yeah.
is it, I don't even know what it is. Is it 717 Creeks?
Oh, yeah.
Like
yeah.
I know what that symbol looks like.
Yes.
But I can't
Yeah.
get the title of
Yeah.
the name right.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
And as a designer, that's fucking such a...
Next level.
It's
Yeah.
next level, man. And
Yeah.
that to be able to achieve that
Yeah.
it's seriously up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing, like, going deep, like researching how those things are sort of made, and finding like a few scans of like Eric's notebooks and shit like that. I'm sure you've come across that, where it's just like, it's not just like, the thing that blew me away even more was like, there was so much, there was like, we saw like probably 1% of what was made.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's so fucking crazy that like just this huge like world of iconography and things like that, visual representation of sound, like it reminded me a lot of like almost like notation, like in terms of music. Like we have a notation system that we use to read music and shit like that, but there's also a lot of like alt notations that you can come across, a lot of graphic notation for more experimental pieces that I've played and shit like that. And it reminds me a lot of that sort of thing, where it's like, it's music in a way of like, I'm interpreting that in sound in whatever way that is. But it made me think of a lot of, like, there's this guy called Cornelius Cardrew who wrote this huge piece called Treatise, and it's like 100 pages long.
Yeah.
And every page, I think I've got a PDF I can show you later, but it's just like these crazy designs that is like the score.
So sick.
And you can play the page, you can play the whole thing. And it reminded me a lot of Eric's work, where it's like there's music within the design, but it's like acting as a notation.
Foreign, man.
Yeah.
Like almost hieroglyphic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Alien.
Yeah.
It felt...
Absolutely. Yeah.
I was like looking at some of them and I was like, is this a letter?
Yeah.
Is this a number?
Yeah. The hieroglyph thing for sure.
You know, like numeral, but it's like, I don't think it's meant to be any of that, right? It's just form.
Yeah.
It was just him playing with form based on the sounds he was hearing. I guess this is why I kind of want to sit in the studio and have jam with you.
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
I don't know what the fuck will come out, but it's like kind of cool that he sat there for several sessions, for several weeks, like, and literally designed what he heard.
Yeah.
Do you know?
Yeah.
Like, that's super cool.
Yeah.
And some of the more aggressive tracks, like I feel like some of the icons are more angular.
Absolutely.
Right, they're sharper.
Yeah.
Some of the softer ones, you feel the curve in it. Like, I don't know, there's something... Fuck, I'd love to chew his ear off. Hey? I'd love to pick his brain about it. But I don't know, man. I just think it was just his interpretation of sound visually.
Yeah.
Which is sick.
Yeah, for sure. Because normally it's the other way. You know, it's like as musicians, you're interpreting. If I'm reading notation, I'm reading the dots and interpreting the dots as sound. Yeah. It tends to not go the other way. Yeah. And I think
and also movies, right? Too
for sure.
Like you know, they score movies
absolutely
based on visual
for sure.
Like and then they play some shit.
Like, yeah. It's always working the other way. Like the sound is sort of the last thing. Whereas for this album, it's like the music was first, then everything is built. And I guess it's like same as album covers or whatever. But it's like this was obviously on a whole
other level, bro. Yeah, big time, big time. And I don't think, it never felt. I don't know. I can't remember the gap that was between the self-titled and 22, but it felt like Eric had been working on that for fucking that gap, dude, you know, seriously. Like years to formulate that. Yeah. But to have that kind of smashed out in several weeks is pretty bad shit.
Yeah, that's nuts. Yeah. I can't really believe that happened.
Yeah. I mean, still one of my favorite books to flip through.
For sure. Yeah. Whenever I'm listening to the vinyl, it's always out.
Yeah.
Because there's always something else there.
Yeah. You pick it up and you find something new. And
it's crazy. Yeah. And I feel like that sort of thing speaks to you and me in terms of like the care and depth, like you were saying before, like you appreciate things that with a lot of thought behind it, a lot of care. And I feel like it's getting we're moving into a place where physically that's slowly disappearing in terms of like there's less things being printed and less things being physically made, vinyls, things like that. Even though vinyl sales, it's like we've had the largest vinyl sales ever in the history of the earth.
For sure.
In the last year, which is just crazy to me.
Full circle.
Which is amazing, and it still gives me a whole lot of hope with that. I'm wondering whether it's like, in terms of the digital realm, like how those things can translate, if they even can.
No.
Yeah.
Nah. I'm probably the wrong person to speak to, man. Like I love, I don't know. It's anything analog for me. It sound like a fucking hipster, but like, I hate myself
but that's
for that.
real.
It's true. Cool. I want to touch things, man.
Yeah.
I want to feel it. I want to, it's a sensory thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. It's the whole offering. It's like, you know, the artists that are doing, you know, they're obviously producing incredible music. Great. You know, and then they've got the videos to accompany that tick. And this is what we're talking about being just creatives, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you've got the printed media that comes associated with that. You've got the billboard rollouts from you know, a physical drive past in your car, see that shit.
Yeah.
And then you've got, you know, the social media collateral and the rollout there. I don't know, man. I love that shit. And I think they work harmoniously together. Yeah. Especially, you know, the physical and the digital and the tangible and the intangible. I think, but for me, going all digital would never give me personally as much joy as shit. You know what I mean? Yeah. I would love it if they, man, like just, you know what, I've got touch, I've got sight, I've got ears, I've got sound, I can hear, but man, they need to start making vinyl smell like something. Or like records smell like something.
Dude.
Like almost, here's an incense stick inside your record. Burn it. And play this. Like stimulate one more sense for me.
That is a fucking awesome idea. Well, the idea of collaborating with like, I don't know what the name of the trade is, but the people that make like perfumes.
Oh yeah,
I can't remember what they're called.
No idea. Or just people that make candles and shit. Like scented candles. Like give me a candle or something. Combining
smell with sound.
Yeah,
that's awesome because that's like an untapped.
Dude, it's kind of cool market. Now. They're starting to move in the branding space. They're starting to really play into that.
Cool.
So like, you know, they play certain music inside stores. What's your brand soundtrack? What does your brand sound like? You know, you know, what's the kind of music that plays in the fashion outlet? You know, I know Country Road, the clothing store and shit, they have their own candle that they burn. One candle. 24/7.
That's wild.
Just 1 cent.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
That's crazy.
So it's that you walk back into that store and you know where you are. It's like, and you're
smell is so powerful.
For sure, man. Just like sound. Right.
Yeah.
You can remember things when you attach it to another sense. Right. So, you know, playing on that kind of that sensory exploration, I think in branding, especially in my profession, that's fucking sick. Yeah. And I'm loving that. I think more and more cats should be doing this. To kind of like round out the whole experiential side of the brand.
Because that's what needs to be happening in order to make it feel like a real experience in terms of like, because you can do that within the physical realm. Do it, because it's like you can't do that digitally.
Correct.
And that serves a purpose, but it's like if you're gonna put out a vinyl, spend time designing a booklet. Spend time making it feel good. Spend time deciding on what color your vinyl is and the weight of it and all this shit that it's like you're doing it. So don't, like, why not spend time deciding on all these things, like taking
do everything
care
you can
for sure.
Be involved in as much of that process as you possibly can,
because I feel like that will, if you are spending time considering all those things, it will separate you in terms of like it's a full expression of what you're making.
Big time. Big time. And you can get yourself across in that way too.
Yeah.
You know, sell the, well, if you're a band, sell the bands more.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, and I don't know, values, right? I guess too.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Sure. It's definitely rounding out that experiential, the offering, I think, is something that, you know, I think most artists should be thinking about, or, you know, once you have capital to do so, it's fucking expensive to press.
Oh, dude,
let's be honest, it's
definitely
criminal.
Yeah,
but,
it's crazy.
Yeah, or just be doing, I don't know, doing things that stimulate senses. Otherwise, if you have to stick to digital, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like, if you're going to go down that road, like, do it properly.
Yeah. Give it some love,
because otherwise,
man.
like, don't, like, I've bought vinyls before where it's just like single sleeve, like bullshit design. And like, I'm just like, what is this? It's so boring. Yeah, I don't want to touch it.
It doesn't hit.
I want that gatefold.
Yeah, give me that double gatefold, that 4 LP.
Oh, yes.
You know, 2 tracks per side. Oh shit, flipping the disc all the time. Just clocking Ks.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I hear that. And I think people do, man. I think people, well, I should say people, musicians, I think, and especially working with a couple, I think they pour their heart and soul into the music.
Yeah.
And then after that's done, it's like they're fucking exhausted. Man. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they're just like completely spent.
Yeah.
And they're just like, dude, we just want this fucking out there.
Yeah.
Like, slap some shit together.
Yeah.
And then 2000 by 2000 pixel thumbnail. Fucking stick it on iTunes and Shopify, fucking whatever.
Yeah.
You know? And I just think, what a waste, man.
Yeah.
You didn't complete the...
Yeah, it's only half the journey.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's not half the journey in terms of the musical journey, but I feel like, I get that as well. Like a lot of people I chat to and work with and things like that on a musical level, I find I'm constantly having these conversations of like, if something, they've got the master back or something. I've had a couple of friends recently that have released stuff, and it's been like a bit of a tragedy in terms of the rollout, because it's like they've got this song that they're ready to share that they've been sitting on for a while. They've recorded it. They've spent all this time and money like mixing it, mastering, blah, blah, blah. And then it's like you get one opportunity to roll it out, and it's like I just see a lot of people wasting that opportunity and like, I don't know, doing some pretty like gross design in terms of like even just like not nice photos, or like just like there's no like decide on a time frame and then roll out what you can deal with. But I just mean like it's a shame that I think that's like a lot of musicians are like that, where it's like they spend a lot of time on their music like they should, but the design or the visual language, the rollout of those things is not on the cards. And I think it's a really huge disadvantage to their music.
It is, man. It is. And I think too, with the saturation of fucking music that's out there now, like, and having worked with, you know, a bunch of cats, I think you're doing yourself an injustice by not doing it. Like, you need something other than just your track to cut through noise here.
That won't get you into the playing field, let alone like separating.
Like, I don't know, I think music 40 years ago, 50 years ago, definitely wasn't being produced at the rate at which it is now.
Yeah,
you know,
because the tools weren't there.
Bro, correct. And weren't easily accessible. And these bedroom producers now, man, like some of those cats are so incredibly talented.
Yeah.
You know? Just making beats on their MPC on their bedroom floor. Silly business. And just the sheer volume of music being released daily. I'd love to know the stats, actually.
It would be insane, like an insane amount.
Do you know what I mean? And like that's on the bigger platforms, let alone like SoundCloud and Bandcamp
and things like that.
Your track's just not going to cut it. I just don't think it's going to cut it. And it's the percentage of success would be, you know, minuscule, bro. for it to get heard by the right people, and you know, I think you need to come armed with a strategy.
Yeah.
And this is kind of what we help with, and what I help with. It's like, okay, but how does this song look visually?
Yeah.
What touch points and platforms are we putting this on? How are people going to find it?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
What visuals are going to accompany the track? Like, I don't know. You got to give yourself the best chance of people finding you, I think.
Yeah.
I think that's...
And purely just, if not on a not even thinking like capitalistically, purely just in a discovery thing of like, how can I share this with as many people as possible? And it's like, well, you need to have a visual language surrounding that. Otherwise,
for sure.
people won't fuck with anything that you put out. They just won't see it.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And how are you going to get it in front of as many eyes as you can, or, you know, heard by as many ears as you can?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's definitely becoming so much more difficult, right?
Yeah.
And then even going back with like Fred, for example, like, again, no disrespect to Fred, the music itself is not anything groundbreaking, earth-shattering, genre-bending. It's just really good quality, upbeat electronic music.
Yeah, for sure.
That's it. But the way that he... Obviously the timing, yes, but the way he rolls it out and the way he makes it accessible, everything about what he's doing is part of that. Yeah. Again, the Fred experience, right? Yeah. His brand, his the rollout. Yeah. I guess the strategy behind his success is not just the sound. Yeah.
For sure. And I feel like in terms of music, I think that's gotten to a place where anyone can make anything from their bedroom now, because the tools are there. All you need is a laptop. But I feel like the visual side is something that's still really not there yet in terms for a lot of artists. I mean, as in like, you have the ability to make music on your laptop and put it out very quickly. But I feel like a lot of those artists don't have the facility. Like, not every artist is like well versed in graphic design or in photography, or some are, and then they're normally the ones that spend a lot of time on developing the visual rollout. And I feel like there's a huge gap and a huge like lack of care or knowledge or something with a lot of musicians, because they get to that point and are tired and don't want to think about that. But I feel like that's such a big place where a lot of work could be done, a lot of great things could be made. I feel.
Think too, it's the appreciation part, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think, you've made the track, you've mastered it, it's ready to be released. You're fucking tired from doing so. Yeah. But you also appreciate how it's going to look visually, right? I feel like this is that thing about appreciation and taste, right? It's
absolutely
like,
comes back
are you
to that,
going to, I'm sure there are cats out there who make a track and then really don't give a fuck about what it looks like. A lot of people do. Yeah, you know what I mean?
I have a lot of friends that don't fucking
That's crazy
care.
to me.
They don't even care if anyone hears their music, which is fine, but to me that's nuts, because that's only half the life of your art. It's like, you've made it to express yourself, but then someone else is going to be affected by that in a different way. Yeah. And it's like, it's kind of your obligation as an artist to put it out if you're feeling good, like comfortable about it. Yeah. You got to share it.
For sure.
Yeah.
You can't just collect dust. But mind you, that's hypocritical. I've got fucking hard drives of shit just collecting dust. Yeah. But I it's true, man. I think it's like, it's not really finalized until it's out there. Yeah. For human consumption, because it's set in stone then as well. It's like, it's committed to the timeline of your artistic life. Yeah. And you've like, I feel like all art is just cataloging like feelings of humans at different points in time on the planet, you know, like big time, in terms of like, when I made this, I felt like this, and this was going on in the world. Yeah. But that's different to like a year in the future, to 20 years in the future, whatever. Circumstantial, man. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And so I feel like Got a piss.
Yeah, for sure.
Loving that track though. I don't remember what we were preaching about. I enjoyed that though.
Musicians not caring about design.
Yeah.
Dude, yeah. So many friends don't give a fuck, and it's fine. I don't understand. Like, I don't understand that though. Like, it's like if you have the opportunity, like, you have to make an album cover, like, and so on some level, you have to. You can't. Spotify won't let you not upload something.
Yeah.
And so it's like that is an opportunity, and you can't avoid that.
Yeah, big time.
And I feel like that has to be made use of, like, in whatever capacity that is, you know.
Yeah.
It's like whether you design it or whether you ask someone to do that for you. You can't avoid that, you know.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't really understand it. I don't see. Maybe that's just me though. As to why you start something but don't finish the whole thing. But I guess maybe that's, like, again, touching on that appreciation side.
Yeah.
They don't appreciate the visual.
Yeah.
So be it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't really know. Yeah.
Like,
I don't know.
I feel like it's kind of getting into this zone of, like, for me, the way that my brain works is like, it's 100% or zero. So in terms of, like, if I'm going to do something, I'm going to put everything I can behind it. Otherwise, why the fuck would I even try, right?
Yeah.
And I forget that there's people out there in the music world, at least because that's the world I occupy. Some people don't care as much as I think that they do.
Yeah.
About the shit that they make, and that applies to every art form.
Yeah.
And to me, I don't understand, because to me, like, with art, it's like breathing. It's something that I have to do. I have to express myself through music, and without that, I don't know what I would be doing. But I forget that some people, it's like it's a hobby for people, or it's something where it's like it's just for them, and it doesn't, you know, they don't care about sharing it or something. And I feel like that's probably why we feel similar, in the sense of, like, you're someone that's, I feel, is very much the same.
Yeah. I think for sure. I think back in the day, I would definitely create things and wouldn't share them. Maybe, especially in the painting days, like I'd say probably a lot of that was, I don't know, it was probably more therapy for me than just making something to show or gain feedback on.
Yeah.
It was maybe probably, I would say, a much more personal endeavor. Yeah. You know?
Yeah.
And I get that for sure. I get that people do that, especially painting. I feel like painting is such a cathartic process, right?
For sure.
You know, Huey.
Yeah.
Lay Cake Huey, shout out Huey Lay Cake, and Trish, Huey's mum.
Yeah.
She's only picked up, like, a paintbrush in the last, she'll listen to this too, bless her soul. She picked up a paintbrush, like, last few years, man.
Yeah.
And I think it was just, Huey always, like, had no idea. Because Huey's a super creative dude, man.
Yeah.
He plays instruments, like multi-instrumentalist, and also incredible singer.
Yeah.
Like, makes a shit ton of drops a whole bunch of singles, whole bunch of music all the time.
Yeah.
And he just found out that his mum can fucking paint. Like,
it's
like, it's silly, bro. She's serious. She's winning like Australian, like, art awards.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. She's shown in galleries now.
Yeah.
Like, and she picked the brush up just a few years ago.
That's crazy.
It's crazy, man.
Yeah, right.
And I think it's kind of cool too from Huey's standpoint, because he's like, oh, there's genuinely creativity in my family. I had no idea this even existed, right?
Yeah.
But I think for Trish, she just started painting because she was tired.
Yeah.
Maybe it was an outlet. I don't really know.
Yeah.
You know, how much of a creative expression it was for her, if she ever intended anyone to see it.
Yeah.
But she just wanted to create, and I think that's, you know, super sick. And I think it's this innate feeling of needing to produce something.
Yeah.
express ourselves through even if it's just for our eyes only or our enjoyment only, I think is important. I think it's an outlet, right?
Yeah.
That's all. It's therapy. I think it's like speaking to a psych. I think it's going to the gym.
Yeah.
For some.
For sure.
I mean, that's fucking, I understand that. That's not me.
Yeah.
But like, you know, for some cats, that's therapy, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's this, I don't know. Yeah.
Sort of like, how you make sense of the world.
Yeah.
For me is through music and hearing music, like, and seeing art and watching films, and it's like seeing someone else's view of the world through their lens. And then it gives me an idea of where my view sits in relation to theirs a lot of the time.
Yeah, that's a cool way of looking at it.
Like, I remember I had this really intense drug experience one time where this became very apparent to me, and I'd never thought about it in that way before. But it was presented to me in a very visual format of a like very small black like marble kind of thing as like the nucleus of like an opinion or your expression or whatever. And then the room was like unimaginably big, and there was threads of really, really thin cotton that radiated out of this like little black ball, and they were all joining to different places like within the room and crossing over. And I was sort of within this room, and I sort of realized that like this is sort of what we're all kind of doing as humans, in terms of there's an idea that like we feel strongly about, or our opinion or our expression or whatever, and everyone has a thread it's all relating to this singular source. Yeah. But there's a million different angles you could view it from. Yeah. And everyone is just viewing it from different angles. You know? Yeah. And I feel like that radiates out in terms of artwork as well. It's like when I see someone's art, it gives me an idea of what their fears are and what their loves are, and how they make sense of what's going on. Yeah. And what's happening to them as a human on the planet,
I love that, bro. I love that. That sounds like a trip.
That is pretty trippy.
Yeah. Wholesome. I think it's cool, man. I know Rick Rubin touched on this in his book, The Creative Act, which is a fucking absolute masterpiece.
Yeah.
Absolute masterpiece. But the idea that we're all antennae, like, and that the universe, you know, speaking of energy, I guess, the universe, it wants ideas to be born.
Yes.
So whether or not, let's fucking talk about, I don't know, the camera. I'm just staring at one right now.
Yeah.
Let's think about the camera, right? If I don't know who invented the camera, right? Whoever that person was.
Yeah.
But in saying that, if he didn't invent it, someone else would have.
Yes.
Right? So it's like this idea that
the ideas meant to come into the world.
Right, but the big thing is who acts on these.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. And whether it's your time to bring them into the world.
And if you have this idea, or this is why I'm like always about people, if they have this cool idea that they were like, dude, I had this idea that I want to pursue, and I'm like, dude, just fucking do it.
Yeah.
Like, just, you've got nothing to lose. Just run that shit and see if it works, because if you don't do it, someone else is going to do it. And there's no doubt about that in my mind.
Yeah.
You know, you either have to act on it. The only thing that might slightly change is how you deliver the idea, or how you create the thing in your, like what you're kind of saying with the perception of the strings. And it's, you know, how you design that product to, you know, be consumed, or whatever, that it'll be utilized or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think that's a really cool thing, like the idea that we're all just antennae, and ideas that always bouncing around. Yeah. Or inspiration is always bouncing around.
Yeah.
It's just whether or not we act on it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think when in doubt, like, that's a nice thing to think about. because I know there's times where it doesn't feel like there's ideas flowing out. But
for sure.
But then, you know, when you're thinking in that way, where it's like these ideas are meant to happen, it's very comforting to think that way rather than I need to invent the idea or the thing. It's there.
Yeah.
I just need to figure out how I can get it through this lens and out into the world.
Big time. That also, you're not going to find that idea staying in the same room.
Absolutely.
Right? The same box. This is why I think, you know, creative exploration is like imperative for not only self-development and personal growth and creative development even. Like exploring that is not only, you know, going to hone your skills on certain technical things, but it's going to open up, you know, infinite possibilities of new ideas coming in. You're going to see the world in a different light. You're going to view different source material as something that you wouldn't have viewed in a different way that you wouldn't have previously or whatever it is. Like, that's why I think just kind of getting out of that box and dipping your toe in the water and just trying a whole bunch of new shit is only beneficial. Yeah.
For sure. And like, you know, there's that saying, life imitates art. Art imitates life, but you have to live your life to create art. And I think a lot of people sort of forget that at certain times, where it's like, I know I forget that sometimes, where I'm like making a whole lot of music and not going outside and not living my life, and then realizing that it's like the reason I'm not vibing what's happening is probably because I haven't had a life experience in a little while.
100%.
You know, I think that's super important.
Yeah, and, you know, being confined to the same space and it's only going to, you know, present the same results.
Yeah.
You know, putting yourself in one situation or
For
one
sure.
environment. You're going to just keep being exposed to only the same shit on repeat, really.
Yeah, and if that's a safe place and you're not being challenged, I think there's no room for growth. Then
bro, courage over comfort. Yeah, big time. Brene Brown.
For sure.
Yeah, imperative, man.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, courageous creativity.
Yeah,
I think
for sure.
Need to see more of it.
Yeah,
yeah,
definitely. Maybe to sort of round out, you know, we could go forever. And the literal only thing is stopping it is my card's about to fill up. Otherwise,
let's keep going. Yeah.
And I'm sure there'll be many other
for sure
other check-in times. But I guess like going forward and thinking for the future, is there particular things that you have found presented themselves, ideas, thoughts, feelings that have appeared in recent years that are new and things that you're wanting to sort of keep pursuing? Like now that, because I feel like you're in a place that you've had this arc of kind of starting from the bottom now here, you know, like in terms of you've began sort of from the source of working within the printing industry to now you're a creative director. And I realize like it might be a place where you might not want to say too much about that right now, just depending on who's listening and things like that. So don't feel like you have to tell me what you told me before, which is cool. But I guess like, have you found moving sort of into this creative director role, are there particular things that have shown themselves that you would never have sort of thought about when you were working in a print shop, you know, like in terms?
I mean, big time. I think opportunities, they present themselves in strange ways. I think it's mostly based on connections, right? And kind of the door, I hate that, the saying, it's not about what you know, it's about who you know.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, especially in this industry, man, in the advertising world and, you know, madman-esque bullshit that goes on, it is very much about who you know, not what you know. So definitely opportunities have opened up themselves there and allowed me to work on some really cool shit, which I'm, you know, incredibly blessed for and grateful for. But I don't know. In terms of, it's been kind of strange in terms of like there's always going to be the goals of like what I want to do, and the kind of projects that I want to work on, and
for sure,
clients I want to deal with. And
definitely. There's
always going to be, I don't know, I always have a list of that kind of shit. But I don't know, man. It's been kind of strange. Like since I would say, it's kind of taken, especially since having kids, right? Like it's definitely taken the professional. Like obviously love my job and shit, but like it's definitely taken a back seat in terms of just enjoying, the magic that is having the two girls, right? Like
for sure.
And I would say genuinely that they are teaching me more than work or experiences like professionally. Yeah. Like these two little creatures that the gremlins, man. Yeah. They're teaching me more about life than anything that I do inside the studio or anything that I do. These girls, man, like their passion for life and their general inquisitiveness. Absolutely. Their excitement over the most mundane shit. Things that I think are mundane. Yeah, right. It's crazy, man. They're always in awe of things. And I'm just like, it's a bird. But it's like you start to slow down, and I feel like they're actually changing my perception on things, like trying to find the magic in the, the mundane, I guess. Yeah. Sure. And how much time and effort they give things. Like the effort side for them, like, is really impressive. Yeah. Whereas like I'm one of those people who can, especially if I'm working on a project or an idea or something, I'm cooking something up. Yeah. If I don't resonate with it quite quickly, I turf it. Yeah, right. Whereas like they'll be making something, and even it could be blocks, it could be like a painting or a drawing, coloring in shit, and they are hyper focused. Yeah, yeah. And they just keep going and keep digging and spending so much time and just fully immerse themselves in whatever it is they're doing. I think that's probably like a big thing that I'm learning from watching them and spending time with them, obviously. But yeah, it's kind of cool, man. Yeah, it's a really nice thing, definitely, to watch. Yeah, and also learn from. I never knew they'd teach me as much as they have. You know what I mean? Yeah, yeah. And like Annika, she's my 5-year-old. She's pretty creative, man. She loves to paint, and so does Oddie. They're both. I'm definitely not going to push them down any kind of creative route. Yeah, route in life, man. But if they, do pursue it, and they'll see me designing something on a computer and like, what's that? Yeah, what's this? What's that? And it's like they have this like. I feel like they definitely have like some sort of natural inquisitiveness into. Of course, yeah. And our house, it's full of art and it's full of a sound and creative space. Like hopefully. Yeah, there's something that comes from it, and they do. Yeah, I want to delve down there. I'm definitely not going to make them become art teachers. But, man, it's cool. It's cool. It's amazing to watch. I definitely think that's probably my biggest thing at the moment. It's like them. Yeah, they're inspiring me probably more so. Yeah, it's sick. That's awesome. Super cool to watch, man. Yeah. That's super cool. Yeah, the kids' idea of. You'd know. You're teaching, man. Teaching, bro. Yeah. It's crazy. And like, it's wild. There's like a fearlessness and persistence that is not. The world hasn't. All the other bullshit surrounding, like, the world hasn't got to those things yet, and it's purely. It's just pure. It's pure in terms of. Their inspiration and their excitement of things. It's so not tainted by the world yet. Yeah, and they're not thinking about those things. They're just focusing on the thing that's in front of them. And that's they're amazing. Not worried about labels or being stereotyped or pigeonholed. For sure, it's super cool though too, because like I watch them and I realize how like fucking learnt fear is. Absolutely, like it is purely a learnt emotion that we learn like in a reacting like. Sense, man. Reactory sense. It's fucked. Yeah. Like they don't have it. They don't possess it. No. Fear does not exist. Like they will climb the highest shit. Yeah. Yeah. Try to encourage them to do dangerous things carefully. Yeah. That's our motto. Sure. Just do dangerous shit carefully. But nah, man, they don't have fear. Yeah. They are wild. Yeah. And I love that. Yeah. Definitely.
Definitely.
If I could channel even a skerrick of that into my work, like
dude.
just be more unapologetically,
Yeah.
Risk-taking. Fearless and take big risks. And that would be, something I'd definitely pen down.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. Yeah. I think it's a nice place to leave it, dude, for sure. It's a nice message to hang on, is take more risks carefully.
Yeah. Take risks carefully, man. Do dangerous shit carefully.
Yeah, for sure.
Love that, bro.
Thanks so much, dude.
Oh, man, always a pleasure.
Yeah, and I would love to explore this idea of making some music and designing things at the same time.
Yeah, let's do that, man.
I know that's been popping around for a bit, but I'd love to explore that. That's exciting.
You got a channel now, man. Let's just.
Sure.
I don't know how we'll figure it out.
Yeah,
we'll do something. We'll make it.
Yeah, we'll cook something up.
Get in the kitchen. Oh, my man.
Awesome, dude.
Wonderful,
Thank
bro.
you.
Thank you, dog.